So I'll start with you all of these in comparisons to other years. How deep of a receiver class do you feel like this is?
In theory, it's not the deepest in theory, but like as is the theme of this whole draft, and like we've talked about over the last few weeks, like there's there's starters in this draft, and I think who said it? I was listening to James Palmer of Underdog now. I think he used to work for ESPN, but NFL Insider, people listening might know. And he said that this is not a star draft, but it is a starter draft. And that's so real because
Yeah.
you get past day one. I think I think for sure when we talk about day one, I think Tet's going round one. I think Matthew Golden's going round one. I think Luther Burden's going round one. I think Emeka Abuka will. I think it's close, but I think he will go round one. So you get into like day two and three. Trey Harris, who's a explosive downfield threat. You got Alec Eilmaner out of Stanford, big physical receiver. Not the biggest receiver, but he plays pretty physical.
Mhm.
Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. He's going to absolutely get a lot of targets his rookie season wherever he goes. Look at Jack Beck from TCU. Isaiah Bond is funny because Isaiah Bond was 2 years ago. We probably would have thought he was going to go round one. Um, and now he's probably looking at round three or later, just based on like a lot of different things. And he kind of got passed up by Matthew Golden as being the number one guy at Texas. But Tay Felton out of Maryland. So it's their starters in this draft. And I always contend that, the goal isn't to get superstars. It's dope if you can, but the goal is to get motherfuckers that can help you win. And also when you talk about receivers, who can separate, who can catch the ball, who can pick up first downs. Talk about a Tez Johnson, who was on the smaller end, the very, very smaller side of it, but he can separate. He catches the ball well. He gets first downs. Talk about Juice Wells out of Ole Miss. He can separate. He can make big plays down the field. He's a physical receiver. He has really good hands. Like, this is what you look for.
No, I agree. I think one of the things that's like often so take out the guys who are at the top end of receivers, right? Like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they can do everything. And so they're outliers. What makes, in my opinion, I think this gets kind of convoluted, and shout out to the Hall of Fame. I think Randy Moss fucked this up for everybody. Randy caught touchdowns at such him and T.O. caught touchdowns at such an unprecedented rate that became like the standard bearer of what makes a great receiver. Like, can you get 10 plus touchdowns a season? When the reality is those are two of the three greatest receivers ever. I'm not here to argue about list or order, but those are two of the three greatest ever. And what's actually great, in my opinion, for what you can reasonably expect for a receiver is, can you catch first downs? Which is like we brought up Amon Ra as like kind of a joke, but that's really his skill. He's not some huge high touchdown guy. It seems like every time he catches a pass, it's going for a first down.
Hmm.
Cooper Kupp just got signed this week. And for y'all want to know, like, trust someone in this podcast thinks Cooper Kupp is better than DK Metcalf. I ain't gonna say who, but just know that's an opinion. And
Stand on it. Ten
like
toes.
Cooper Cup's thing is, it's not so much that he's some big touchdown explosive guy. It's the fact of every time he's open and he's catching the ball and it's a first down. And keeping, again, yes, is it great if your receiver can get, like, if it's great if you can have Jamar Chase, it's great if you can have Justin Jefferson, or your receiver can get you 10 plus touchdowns. But the reality is what matters a lot. Like, even as you're a fan watching the game, nothing's more of a killer than it's like 3rd and 6 and just slight move by the quarterback, throw to the guy, first down. And now you're sitting there on, like, you're watching defense who's been on the field now 10, 11, 12 plays. These guys are great athletes, but no one can be on the field for that amount of time, especially on defense. And so that's something I feel like gets lost with a lot of these guys. Like, yeah, you'd want them all to be super explosive, but just the ability to get open, I feel like, from at least from a fan's perspective, has just gotten lost on a lot of people.
Hmm.
And so, like, if you could be a 7 catch guy, like you catch 7 passes a game and 4 of them go for first down, bro, you gonna get paid, and you gonna be one of the best receivers in the NFL. Is
That
there?
shit, that's Nico Collins.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a big, and like, again, you could be a high end athlete. Like Nico's a high end athlete. It's not taking anything away from that. It's just that ability to separate is almost like a lost art. Like when they talk about like actual route running, and that's something DK doesn't have. Like DK's not a great route runner, and that's kind of where he falls short for the other receivers that are especially now the guys that are paid like him and or more than him, he's probably the worst route runner of any guy making 30 plus a year. Um, is there a I'll start off here, and this is probably unfair. Just as a prospect, right?
Hmm.
Does Tet compare to Marvin Harrison coming out last year? Just as a prospect.
Not as a prospect, just because he can't separate like Marv could. Um, the hands are super close. Probably game speed wise, probably about the same speed as Marv. But Marv could separate at such a great. He could separate so well. He
Mm-hmm.
was great over the middle. Tet Tet can play the intermediate game, but his stuff was more deeper shots. Um, so yeah, I would say that's the big difference. Whereas like, and is not as like everything with Marv coming out was just smooth. Everything was just smooth. Specifically that 2020 two season, not 23, but his last year with Stroud, like everything was just very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And even in 23 when he was getting all the attention and everything like that, and the quarterback play wasn't as great, he was still being able to make plays. But Tet's incredible though. He catches everything. He can go up, contested catches, and make great plays vertically with the ball. He's elusive with the ball to be that size. He's very like nimble and swift with the ball in his hand. So he's um he's really good.
Who's your favorite receiver in this draft? Maybe not someone you would say like is necessarily the best, but who's like your favorite receiver in this draft?
My favorite receiver in this draft is the best receiver, and that's Travis Hunter.
Valid, valid. So I guess we'll start up there. So now I guess the conversation we'll get here too. We'll evaluate this again. I guess when we get to corners. So you'll get this question one more time for me. Are you officially on? I know we've texted a little bit about it, but now you've had a few days. Are you on the if you draft Travis Hunter and he can only play receiver, is he the best receiver in this draft?
I would have said that like 3 4 months ago. Honestly, he's just
Valid, valid.
he's he's an incredible athlete with a great adjustment skills. Hand eye is incredible. His ability to make vertical plays to be a smaller guy is I think really gives him an edge. The routes are he's a really good route runner. I won't necessarily say great, but he's a really good route runner specifically for somebody that's going in between positions. If he were to just focus on that, the routes would be very there's still room there to grow like as a route runner. And then
Mhm.
obviously the speed that he possesses, you can run him on screens, you can run him on plays out the backfield, quick hitters, deep stuff, intermediate, like everything that you would look for in a receiver as far as being able to play make, he can do. And
Mhm.
he has the speed to make every catch a potential home run play.
That's valid. Um, do you? And I think I don't want to give him the same love that I gave when we talked about Shador. Is I think Travis is only going to be helped because this matters to me is when you play in certain situations, and again, Colorado, great story, but obviously less talent. That will like someone like Travis, who when he first came out was 5 star coming out the gate, he could have gone to a generic like top end high power 5 school and would have played with other 5 star guys across the board. I think the fact that when you knew there was such a talent gap, no disrespect to the guys on Colorado, but there was such a talent gap between him and Shador and everybody else. Again, I gave Shador credit that he had to play with some crap, and I think that also applies to Travis. Um, I know I've heard that somewhat applies to Tet because Arizona didn't have like another great receiver besides him, and he was their offense in some games. But again, Colorado had the worst rushing offense in college football the last 2 years. And not just like, oh, they were averaged out. We're like, no, they were dead ass last year and they were dead ass last the year before. So this is a guy who's already been used to being treated as clearly the best player on the field. And d- if you went to New England, it's probably the only team that I'm like, all right, you might already be wide receiver one because New England is lacking a lot. But I think he's only going to be benefited by the fact that he's going to have better plays around him. And Coach Prime made a chump. So it's like he's not getting like some lighthearted coaching just because he's the only 5 star, or he was one of the first big signings to go there besides his son. Like Prime, from all the clips and shit that we've seen, like he's on everybody's ass, and not just as
Hmm.
far as being an athlete, but like being a student athlete and being a person. So that's, you're gonna be able to get someone who can be coached super hard. Yeah, you're getting someone who's, what's so great about his, whether he fits in both positions or not, him having an experience and knowing what corners are looking for and or knowing what receivers are looking for if you do let him play both ways. I think that's an extra dynamic that he has that nobody else has at this level. Obviously all these
Right.
guys play somewhat two-way in high school and Pop Warner, stuff like that, but he's played both ways. He's been in the mind of the best corner, the best receiver on a team, and I think that shit only is going to go help him. um excuse me. Is that gap big though to you between him and Tet?
It's not super wide. It's not very wide at all. I'd say it's pretty close as far as receiver goes. But for me, like I said, I think it just separates Travis. He's just a little bit more of a dynamic receiver, whereas he can
Mm.
play inside and outside. Tech can line up inside as well, but that bigger frame you gradually want as an outside receiver. And I think that this. I think the speed probably separates him. Yeah, he's no slowpoke, but like Travis, I don't think he may run at the pro day. Like he has real 4.3, 4.2 speed. So it's like that makes a difference in game when you're talking like 4.4, 4.5 for Tet.
Oh yeah. What? Because Ted just ran his pro day today, right? Didn't he just clock in at 4.4 today?
He was like 4.4, 4.5.
That's crazy for him. This because what this dude's like 6'4". Yeah.
So yeah, he's like 6.4, 6.5. Yeah, he's a big receiver.
Like you're not missing out either. Is okay. I want to hear go to the draft order real quick. Um, do you think there's a chance they both go top five? Travis, I know we both think is already going top five.
I
Um,
do. And I kind of came to that conclusion where it's just like, okay, if a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, I I think New England should draft Will Campbell. I think they should. I
mm,
honestly can give them a pass if they were to go. If they feel like, okay, we need Drake needs a receiver, like, and I think these guys can be that guy for him. I have no issue. Like if Travis ends up there or if T Mac ends up there, like I can completely give them a pass for not taking Will Campbell there, because it's just those two guys, like they are really good, and you can't always bank on being in that spot to get a receiver like that.